Today I give you my 5 biggest takeaways from college football week 2 and my 10 biggest takeaways from NFL week 1. I'm Nathan Gustafson and this is Clutch Time. Alright, so I'm going to be doing this every week. Every Tuesday I'm going to give you my 5 biggest takeaways from college football and my 10 biggest takeaways from the NFL. We'll start with college, where my first takeaway of the week is we need to congratulate Clemson on their undefeated regular season. They had their only test this weekend, and they passed it, defeating Texas A&M by quite the margin. They dominated the whole football game, so I wanted to give a big round of applause to Clemson. They're going to go undefeated because they have the privilege of playing in the ACC. Their next 10 games are going to be a cakewalk. Clemson, I will see you in the playoff. My second takeaway of college football this week: Ohio State is going to beat Michigan again. Okay, we saw it with Michigan struggling to beat Army. Really, Shea Patterson did not look good in this football game, which should come as a surprise to exactly 0 people. They simply do not have the offensive firepower to keep up with Ohio State. They lost too many defensive players to keep it even close, really. I think Ohio State should just stick it to Michigan as they did last year. I don't see anything changing in this matchup. Ohio State is going to win the Big Ten again. My third takeaway from college football this week is that LSU can win a national title. To be honest with you, their defense looked 100 times worse than I thought, and their offense looked 100 times better than I thought it would in this football game. They were able to defeat Texas. I think their defense, it kind of took a toll on them. The injuries sustained during the game, Rashard Lawrence and Grant Delpit both went down. Those are probably 2 of their 3 best defensive players. Christian Fulton was also playing injured to begin with. And despite giving up all those points, they showed to me for the first time in a long time that they can win in multiple ways. They won in a shootout. I didn't think that LSU could beat another team in a shootout. I'm not saying they're going to win a national title. I don't think they'll get the opportunity because I think it's likely they lose to Alabama due to the fact that they have to play in Tuscaloosa this year. But with that being said, I wouldn't be shocked if they did beat them for the first time in a long time. They finally have the offensive firepower to keep up with the elite teams in the country. They've always had the defense. And I think their defense will not have another dud performance like they did this past week against Texas again the rest of the year. But I do think their offense showed that they can actually keep up in a high-scoring game and put points on the board when it counts. Kudos to Joe Burrows. I thought he played excellent. I thought that was a really good showing for LSU in Texas. My fourth takeaway is that the Big Ten is really deep. We saw Maryland just beat the living crap out of Syracuse. We saw another really good game from Wisconsin. They dominated it. I believe the score was 61-0. Jonathan Taylor's legit. Michigan obviously didn't look very good, but Michigan State, another big win. And then Ohio State really continuing to establish their dominance. And I think this really shows just what a deep conference the Big Ten is going forward. There are 6 or 7 seriously good teams in this conference. Like I said, Maryland just the amount of points that they're putting up, and they kind of struggle to win in Big Ten competition. I think it shows how deep the Big Ten is and sort of establishes them as the second best conference in the country behind the SEC. And my fifth take is that the ACC still sucks, and not only does the ACC suck, but the AP voters are still going to try to convince you that they don't suck. Their pathetic attempt this week was ranking Syracuse, who obviously had no right being ranked. They're not a top 40 team in the country, but sure, we'll rank them at 21 so that way we can have a second ACC team in there. Okay, AP voters, keep doing it because you're just making yourself look stupid. They get blown out and lose by 43 points to Maryland, who's probably the 6th or 7th best team in the Big Ten, like I said. The ACC is a pathetic joke who's going to continue getting run over by other Power 5 opponents. This is nothing new, but because Clemson is so outstanding, it sort of uplifts the rest of the conference. To be honest with you, though, like I said, outside of the Clemson Tigers, I don't see any good football teams here. North Carolina gets their 2nd win in a row. If they're the 2nd best team in the conference, I think that really just highlights how bad it is. Moving on to the NFL, my first take is that Antonio Brown is a psychopath. We heard it a couple times over the weekend. Antonio Brown's a genius, man. He's on the Patriots now. He got out of the Raiders. Oh, man, it was just an act. No. Negatory ghostwriter, absolutely not. This dude is off his rocker. I think if anyone can turn him around, it's probably Bill Belichick. And knowing the Patriots' luck, it's likely they will, and he'll end up being really good again. But with that being said, if you think he masterminded this whole thing, you're crazy as he is. He is just, like I said, he's a psychopath. He is crazy, threatening to punch your boss in the face. I don't understand how any other team could even sign him. I would send him to some retreat like on some tropical island to drink smoothies and talk about his issues, because this dude is freaking insane. Not in a good way. Sometimes I like to use freaking insane in a really, really good way. He is freaking insane in the bad way. I think the Patriots are taking a major risk on him. If anyone can turn around, it's Bill Belichick, and it could pay off. But he was not pretending. This dude is freaking crazy. My second takeaway from this week is that Mitch Trubisky is going to continue to hold back the Chicago Bears. He showed it only being able to put up 3 points. I do think it was a good showing for the Packers defense. They show their improvement. They show that they can be a much better team this year than they have been the past couple. But Mitch Trubisky really, really looked horrible, and despite this Bears' great defense, he's going to continue to hold them back moving forward. My third take is that the Colts offensive line is the best in football. They're really good. The Chargers have a pretty good front seven. They knew the Colts were going to be running the football down the stretch of that game, and it just didn't matter. Marlon Mack goes for 174 yards. He looked just great. The Colts showed that they can fight still. That was a really good football team on the road, and I think that was a good showing for the Colts. That was my story of the week going into the week. How would they look without Andrew Luck? And I think they answered the call. Obviously, they lost in overtime, and it's a tough defeat. But I think there's a lot to look forward to if you're Indianapolis following that game. Their offensive line just is what really stood out to me. They are outstanding. They gave Jacoby Brissett time against arguably the most ferocious pass rush duo in the league, and Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram. They held those guys to only 2 sacks the entire game. I thought it was a stellar job by the Colts offensive line, and really their front seven, which I thought would be a strength going into the year, kind of struggled. I think they get it together. And moving forward, that is a game to build on for the Colts. I'm not saying they're going to win the division. I still think the Texans will, but I certainly think the Colts will be able to compete. All right, my fourth takeaway of the week is that Patrick Mahomes is still great. Going up against the top 5 defense in the league, he put up 40 points, scoring on his first 7 possessions, even with his number 1 receiver, Tyreek Hill, going down early in the game. Patrick Mahomes is not going anywhere. He's going to be great in this league for a really long time. He is just a phenomenal football player. And really, like I said, he's not going anywhere. This offense is spectacular. They're going to be great moving forward. And Patrick Mahomes just continues to amaze me week in, week out. And that leads me into my 5th takeaway of the week, which is that Jameis Winston still sucks. You give him Bruce Arians, you give him Mike Evans, you give him Chris Godwin, and an improved offensive line, and he's still incapable of doing anything. He cost his team a game by throwing 2 pick sixes. He looked awful against the Niners. Clearly nothing has changed on that front. If Bruce Arians can't turn you around, it's likely no one can. Jameis simply sucks. My 6th point of the week, TJ Hawkinson is an absolute beast. Matthew Stafford looked really good. So much better than last year. Looked more like his old self. I think he gets a lot of heat, and like I said in my quarterback tiers episode, a lot of it he brings on himself with stupid decisions and interceptions. He still has the potential to be an awesome quarterback, and what a weapon that TJ Hawkinson proved to be in that first game. He was outstanding. His first ever NFL game, 6 catches, 131 yards, and a score. He looked like Gronk 2.0, man. And if this guy's on the waiver wire in any of your fantasy football leagues, I would go jump on it right now. There's not going to be many tight ends better than TJ Hawkinson this year. Even as a rookie, he's showing he is an immediate impact player in this Lions offense. My 7th point, I'm going to turn on the Cleveland Browns here, and this is that humility and focus matter. The Browns were the more talented team going into that game at home against Tennessee. They had a lot going for them. They had a lot of hyped up guys. They were at home. But when you get cocky, you get arrogant, you get lazy, the lack of attention to detail was astounding and obvious in this football game. They did not play well at all. Now moving forward, remember I tried to get the emotionally excited Browns fans to sort of cool out and, be happy with an 8-8, 9-7 season this year, because the team's young. There's going to be some mistakes. Moving forward, they'll be really good. Now I kind of want to lift you guys back up. They were really, really bad this week. It's not going to be like that moving forward. Trust me, it's not going back to the way it was. Baker Mayfield is still really, really good. Nothing is going to change on that front. Don't worry about Baker. I know he had an awful game. But moving forward, I still trust him. He's still an accurate thrower of the football. I think they bounce back this week and go into New York and beat the Jets on Monday Night Football. My 8th point is that football is back in Minnesota. The Minnesota Vikings looked great on Sunday, just smashing down the Atlanta Falcons. Matt Ryan, really with Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Devontae Freeman, all the threats on this offense, they were unable to get anything going against the Minnesota defense, and I think they're finally finding an identity that you have to have when Kirk Cousins is playing quarterback. You got to be a run-first team, I think, with Dalvin Cook. They came out and ran the ball really, really well. I trust Kirk to throw the ball. I trust those two receivers. But at the end of the day, when you play defense the way they do, I think they'll be more successful finding that identity in the ground game. And as long as Dalvin Cook can stay healthy, I think they're going to continue to do that and continue to win football games with that style of play. And that brings me to point number 9. My 9th takeaway from this week is that football fans and people in general are always going to overreact. Lamar Jackson's so great, 5 touchdowns, 324 yards, yeah! Woo! No. False. After the game, he made it a point to call out people like myself who make fun of him, calling him a running back, by saying, not bad for a running back, eh? 324 yards, 5 touchdowns, ah. Yeah, but no. Nuh-uh. You put up 59 points on the Dolphins. The average high school quarterback can make most of the throws that Lamar Jackson made in this game, and I simply don't buy him moving forward. He's still an inaccurate thrower of the football, and that doesn't change because he tagged up the crappy Dolphins for 59 points. Does one game really change that much? Is Lamar Jackson better than Baker Mayfield? Okay, is Lamar Jackson better than Big Ben? Big Ben sucked this week. Big Ben was horrible. Baker Mayfield was horrible. Is Lamar Jackson better than them because of one game? Is he suddenly an accurate thrower of the football because he made wide open throws against the worst defense of this century? Do we really need to give him that much credit over one game? The answer for me is no. He's probably going to have another good week this week, and we'll have to listen to it for another week when they crap all over the Cardinals. And they're also poor defense, but moving forward, Lamar Jackson is not a reliable option at the quarterback position. He cannot throw a football accurately. He is a running back masquerading as a quarterback, whether he likes it or not. And one game of just tagging up an awful defense doesn't change that. My 10th takeaway is this. The Pats are great. I still like the Chiefs more. The Patriots just smacked down Pittsburgh, and going back to my last point, it's easy for us to overreact and get too excited over one game. The Patriots are probably the best team in football at this point in the season today. They did handle what I believe is a playoff football team in the Steelers. It was a dominant showing, and it was quite impressive. But I'm looking forward. I'm looking to the AFC Championship game in January, which I do think is inevitably going to come down to the Patriots and Chiefs again. And this time around, I really do think that it's Patrick Mahomes' time. It's Frank Clark's time. It's Chris Jones' time. And honestly, above all, it's Andy Reid's time. He is due to get back to a Super Bowl. The last time he made one, he did lose to Bill Belichick, coaching the Eagles back in 2004. He's overdue for the offensive brilliant mind that he is. He has the quarterback to do it. I think that they can mix in the run just fine with Damian Williams and LaShawn McCoy. Even if the Pats jump out to the hottest start, even though usually it's kind of the reverse, usually the Pats are their strongest in the playoffs, I do think that the Chiefs are still the team to beat in the AFC. They're still going to beat the Patriots in January. And I think you can take that one to the bank. All right, that's going to be it for us today. Make sure you tune into our next episode. ESPN released their all-time 22 starting football lineup in the NFL. I don't agree with it. I'm going to break it down and let you know who my all-time 22 would be. That'll be our next episode. Thanks for watching.